Radio, and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the spiritual discussion program. I'm Saad in southeast London, and very soon I'll be joined by my colleague Gregory. As I say, this is a spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. Now my colleague Gregory has joined. Welcome, Gregory. How are you doing, and how is the weather where you are? Okay, welcome. You just sounded a little bit in the background, but I think you're now coming back to the foreground. Okay,
Thanks.
good. So yes, I'm in London. The weather here is cold. Well, it's warmer than last week. It was freezing last week. So today it's been raining pretty much all day. It's stopped now. And it's, I will say, mild. It's, I think we might have reached even 10 degrees today. So welcome, listeners. As I said, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is in the light of truth. And you're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. You can contact us by calling us or contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just want to remind you the topic for discussion tonight. It is in the light of truth. I'll just repeat that, in the light of truth. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call or text or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. So, as usual, listeners and Gregory, I'd like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic. So again, to remind everyone, the topic tonight is in the light of truth. Really, there are just 2 key words there, light and truth. So let's see what the dictionary says. The first word is light, and I've got 2 meanings given here. It says the natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. And the example he gave, the light of the sun. So the natural agent that stimulates sight and makes makes things visible. Gregory, is that any help for us in our discussion?
Thanks. It is helpful. However, it is not. It's only more of an instance. It doesn't give that inclusive picture that can be used in a forum such as ours here.
Okay, so it's a bit limited, you can say. All right, okay, let us look at the second meaning, see if that helps. It says an expression in someone's eyes indicating a particular emotion or mood. Yes, an expression in someone's eyes indicating a particular emotion or mood. How about this one, Gregory?
With what we are discussing, it's not helpful at all.
Okay, so we're a bit, how can I say, not exactly stuck, but it's not sufficient for our discussion. I can see that, especially when we use the whole name of the topic or the title, in the light of truth. So it doesn't quite make sense, these words given here. So maybe, Gregory, you can help us with a better definition, which is more suited to our discussion.
Well, thanks for this. Basically, one may picture this from 2 perspectives. From an outer perspective, which shows the effects of that expression light, and then an inner perspective which gives the deepest meaning of what light does. From the outer perspective, it is quite simple to say that light illuminates a path. That's what light does. From an inner perspective, light does not only illuminate, but carries some form of energy from one point to another. So it's like it animates, it gives an impetus for further activities. In fact, it's as if it carries life itself. That is what light is, as seen from an inner perspective.
Thank you so much, Gregory. I made a note of what you said there about that meaning of light there. Certainly, it's very different from the dictionary meaning. Let me just repeat what you said there. So you said there were two perspectives or meanings that we could look at for the word light. One is the outer meaning or outer perspective, which you said is the effect of light, which is it illuminates a path. So that sounds much more. The word illuminate definitely gives a picture, I will say, in a spiritual sense, and illuminating a path, so that's good. And the second meaning is to do with inner perspective, which is carry a form of energy, some form of energy, which animates or gives impetus for activity, if I got it right. Or I think you said carry as well. So animates. That's very, how can I say, again, giving a picture, a light that animates and giving energy, or even carries life. I think, if I remember correctly, you said that as well. So that's a lot to think about. We will explore that further. Let's not go into it just straight away yet, because we still have the one other word to look up in the dictionary. So we are saying our topic is in the light of truth. We've looked at the word light. Let's look at the word truth. So what does the dictionary tell us there? We've got three meanings given to us there. They sound so similar, if I'm honest. But anyway, let's see. The first one, it says the quality or state of being true. And they say, example they give is that he had to accept the truth of her accusation. So the quality or state of being true. Gregory, how's that? How good is that meaning?
You yourself said truth, and then it refers to itself the quality of being true. So such definitions which refer to themselves really doesn't carry the sort of explanation that we wish to consider in this forum.
Okay, let us see if there's anything better in the next definition. That it says that which is true, which of course we already sort of discounted that. Anyway, I'll continue. That which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. How about this one, Gregory? Sounds a bit better this time.
That's much better, which is usable, although not complete.
Okay, let's try the third one. It says a fact, this is the meaning of the word truth now, a fact or belief that is accepted as true. And they give example, the emergence of scientific truth. So a fact or belief that is accepted as true. How about this one?
What an individual may take away from such is that expression fact. And belief does not make a fact. A fact basically is a happening in accordance with something. So when facts are discussed, then there must be a framework in which those facts hold. That framework is the truth itself. And therefore, what facts are referred to are just instances where you have that within this framework there is no contradiction. So that expression, truth, is more like a framework, a dynamic framework which one may call motion.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this definition. I think we have to again explore this one further as well in our show as we go. So let me not go further now. Okay. I know, Gregory, we have talked about the definition of light, and you've given the one there. Let me put something to you there. You know, if I say what is the light, something like this might enter our mind. God, even the word truth. So what is the light? And you think of, okay, God is, light is God. And as I said, that may not come immediately to people's mind, but in our spiritual discussion program, it might occur to some people that, light can be God. So is that correct there, Gregory? Can we use that? Or can we think of that as the concept of light?
Very superficially, or very, very superficially, and very reluctantly, one may say yes. But as that which is factual, it is completely no. For that which is referred to as light is the radiations that stream from the source. That radiation is permanent, is constant. It has always been. But that radiation is not the light. Therefore, that concept which is being referred to here is only very limited when people just say the source of the light or the radiation from the light is the light itself. For the source has no substance, is unsubstantiate, whereas light itself is substantiate.
Okay, I'm just trying to absorb what you've said there. So can I just ask another question, which you may have already answered it, but so is the light radiation? I'm just, I think that's what you were saying, but I'm not sure.
Yes, light is a radiation.
Okay.
A radiation which in itself is of a substance, therefore substantiate.
Okay. And it's coming from a source. um, uh, um, which we could say is God. So the source of life, the where life really comes from. So yeah, um, okay. There's so many words here. I'm just trying to make sure I hope myself and the listeners are able to how can I say, take it in and move along with us together, rather than be left behind in some meanings, because that is one of the reasons I like to look at the meaning of these words, so that we are all standing on the same page, not having all different ideas. And I know it's not straightforward, but it's at least a starting point, and hopefully we are on the same page, and then we can move forward. Okay, let us continue. So we said that is light is radiation coming from a source. Okay, it's a source of life. Now, let us. Yeah, I'm going to go to the word truth now. So now, Gregory, people might wonder about the truth, and one of the, let's say, common, I don't know, assumption or presumption is that there is like one truth or universal. Truth is something like a universal answer about life, questions of life. So it's like one truth. Even though I know there are many religions out there, but let's say in our seeking to find answers, just as a individual human beings, we might be looking or seeking the truth, and in our minds we might be thinking that this is something universal. The truth is universal. Would that be a right perception?
Of course, one may say the truth is universal, but that's not what really counts. How is it understood when it is said it is universal? That is what counts for the individual. How does the individual understand it?
Right. Okay. So yes, I mean, I was saying in that question that many people of, let's say, are different faiths, or not even any faith, and that's their, how can I say, way of living. Which, of course, that means they have differences in that. If these people came across each other and started talking about what they, in quotes, believe or follow, their principles or their understanding, as you were pointing out, that the understanding, it could be different, on even on the same points or issues. So, which is, of course, then is the understanding is no longer universal, as I was trying to get to. So, but it's the understanding that you said is important. Okay. So let's see. Okay, let me. Now, Gregory, how can we? Everybody's an individual, so it almost seems impossible to have this. How can I say, same understanding? Because you're pointing to the importance of the understanding. Are we meant to, all of us as individuals, meant to have a same understanding of, let's say, of this of life?
If it is said that, like the example, the truth is universal, that means it applies everywhere to every object, everything within the universe. Within the universe, that is why it said it's universal. Then those who wish to understand it aright must make the effort to understand that which is referred to as truth. How does it connect to the light? Which basically it is the operations. How does this come about? How does this come about? What are the activities which regulate, which regulates within the universe, whether it be the physical universe or the non-physical universe, which is perceptible to the individual? How does this truth, how does it regulate this based on one's free will? How does it regulate all the activities that you find within the universe? These are what the individual must consider, and the understanding of these activities, of how this regulation goes about, varies with each individual depending on the depth that they have gone in their self-examination, in their weighing, and in their examination. So it depends on the person, how far they have gone, how far they have examined that which they refer to as truth within the universe, when they now say it is universal.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. And I'm again reflecting on what you're saying. Um, you've been pointing to that. Obviously, we're all individual. Yes, many of us might follow, in quotes, a particular faith or teaching or whatever it might be, philosophy, or even others who are not following anything like that. They each will be individually, having some basis of how they live their life. And but what you're pointing to is how much each individual is, their understanding depends on how much they have been weighing and examining, as you say it every time at the end of our shows. We must weigh and examine what we have or what we experience. In other words, finding out why something's happening, or just trying to understand why it's happening. So yes, and that level of each individual will be different in their understanding. So I got that. But that doesn't mean that the truth is not universal. It just means it's our level of understanding is so much in this case. Another person is a different level as well. So there will be differences in that way. So I'm getting that now. Okay. But then you, as I say, there's something within us which seems to think or make us, let's say, expect, if I can say, or suspect, I don't know how to exactly to say it, that there is some universality in this life, in this world. For example, we all know that we are breathing, and we are all born through our parents, or unless you're adopted or whatnot, but even they came through their parents. So there's some processes that we know are absolutely fundamentally, in quotes, the truth. This is on the physical level we're talking at the moment, and then we know that there is other world, non-physical world as well, which is more of a mystery in a way, because we don't see it with physical eyes. Physical things we can find physical proof, and there are other things which are non-physical, which we can, in quotes, we just maybe have a reflection about it, don't have a proof, let's say, about it. But I don't want to deviate too much. We do one thing at a time, as they say. So let's see. Now, Gregory, I would say many of us will be wondering, where did I come from? Of course, we know in the physical sense, we came through our parents. That maybe some of us are thinking there's, well, after death, for example, uh, is that the end? I'm talking about the physical death. Is that the end of our life, or does it carry on? Um, you know, and some of us, we know they're born, like born and die very quickly, and you wonder, oh, that person didn't have a full life, they died so quickly. Is it, what was the purpose of that? So these questions will come up. We call it like the meaning of life. What is the meaning of life? All these things that we experience, you know. And those questions, they're not, let's say, how can I say, easy to answer. At least from the physical point of view, they don't make any sense. You know, when, let's say, you find different cases of people, one had a full life, the other one didn't have his full life. You know, either they had an accident or even died in childhood. So these are questions that people might have. So let me see. So one will wonder, Gregory, okay. I have questions, but I just want to see how I can tie it in with what we are talking about at this moment. So Gregory, you know, this question, we know we talk about weighing and examining, but there's always this questioning within us, why this happened, or why, you know, or this happened to someone else, let's say. So let me ask, can we find answers to this type of questions, which are not like in a physical, they don't seem to have physical answer? So is it possible to find such answers to this type of questions?
May I ask which type of question you're referring to?
Yes, I'm talking about the examples I was giving, which is like somebody lives like a full life on this earth we are talking. Others die maybe in childhood, and others die in an accident. And one may wonder, why? So can we have answers to such a question?
Of course. There are very simple answers. The challenge or the lack of vision to understand the happenings is due to the inability or the lack of will of the individual to examine further. First, there is the need to have clarity of what life is. It is necessary initially to talk about the laws of creation. It is necessary to also have clarity using the simple terms that many think they understand very well. Many a time you find that when they talk about life, or when they refer to life, they are basically discussing biological life. That is the scenario where someone is born, and after a period, you find that biological life now comes to an end, in which that which makes up the biology or the whatever one cares to call it now disintegrates. So that is very clear before everyone. But from the question which you asked, when you find there are some who live longer, that means their biological life extended longer than the other ones who, in quotes, said passed on at an early stage in that journey, one may then establish very clearly that in that biological life you are referring to, there was a beginning and there is an end. That is a fact which cannot be denied by anyone. Now, one should take it further. For what you have when that is referred to is basically that there is motion. That motion which had a start and an end within that biological period in which the individual is able to make use of the senses which are associated with that individual. Again, these are facts which many know. The question is, what makes use of this body during that period from the start and the end of it? If there is an entity, which entity is not physical, which entity you cannot hold in your hands, but which, as a matter of fact, is active in making use of this biological object which has a beginning and an end. That is what puzzles many. As is well known, there is, like you find in very simple discussions, people are able to do work. And when they do work, they talk about energy. Because that which is referred to as energy is that ability or that intrinsic ability to do work. It is taken for granted. There is no argument about that. Now, you must ask yourself, what is this energy? Because energy is mentioned a lot in the so-called sciences, and it has found its usage in the everyday language. You have so much energy. Energy is exchanged. The question is, what is energy? It seems that it is used basically in the so-called scientific world, in which these sciences examine everything from an outside point of view. So the world of science is an outer perspective, not an inner perspective. In the world of the arts, you have spirit. So on the one hand, the outer perspective, you have energy. On the other hand, the inner perspective, you have spirit. So the connection between that which is referred to as energy is that energy is spirit. It is this energy which is able to, in its activities, manifest. It is this energy which, when considered carefully, one may say there are two parts. First, that energy or spirit which is capable of consciousness, and the other, that energy or spirit which is not capable of consciousness. That energy which is not capable of consciousness is what spirits, or is what the scientists or sciences, that is the one they deal with. Because when there is motion of objects within creation in the universe, in that particular scenario, you find energy is involved. But that energy which is being discussed is that which is not capable of consciousness. The one which baffles the individual, which you referred to as the case of human personality, that particular case is that energy, that is spirit, which is capable of consciousness, or going further, capable of self-consciousness. That being the case, that which is capable of self-consciousness in this particular area has a free will to decide or not to decide, which is what every human personality on earth uses. How they use this free will, which is intrinsic to them, determines how long they stay in a particular incarnation, which is the beginning, and the end of that incarnation, which is what many call a transition or death. So it is how this free will is used that gives us, that makes it very clear why people are born depending on the features which they themselves bring along, how long they stay, and how long it takes before they now depart. Because they themselves, using their free will, are able to make decisions because they take responsibilities. So that is only a tip of the iceberg. For many who wish to examine further, that work is already there, from which the title of this discussion is taken.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this explanation, about really our reflections on what life is. So, yes, biological life, that's what we start with, but actually there's more to it. That is not the life. If we really look seriously about what is life, that's just only the material or physical, biological one that we see. But yes, there's a question, where did the life begin? So I don't want to ask that just yet. Let us wait a moment. I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Uprushing. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is in the light of truth. In the light of truth. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is in the light of truth. And after the show, we finish at 8 p.m. You can listen to a recording of this show just again on YouTube and typing the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, in the light of truth. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that is ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, we've been talking, you could say about the meaning of life. And we talked about the biological life, earth life, which we are very familiar with. We know we are born, we know we die. And I was saying some people, live a full, long life. Others maybe die earlier through an accident or something, and others even in childhood. And one may wonder why. On the outer surface, it looks like that's not fair. Somebody can live long, others don't live so long. What was going on? And Gregory, you've been pointing to us, well, that's from an earthly perspective, that is what life is. But actually, there's more to it. So let's say, okay, Gregory, where does life begin then? We're talking about human beings, so you just want to be careful here, because life, there's so much things in life. Of course, we are human, then they have the animals, there's trees, nature. So we could all call this life, but in our show, we focus about human life. We can touch about on the other ones, but I don't want to get diverted on that. So Gregory, what can we say is you could say, the beginning of the human life? Is it the earthly birth, or is there more than that?
Well, thanks for this question. In the previous question, one hinted that that which is observed from an external point of view, that which is able to make decisions because it has been granted the free will to do so, that one may refer to that particular entity that makes the control of the body. That again one may refer to as energy, or more specifically in the arts as spirit. That which is referred to as spirit is not external. It makes use of the physical body. No one is able to use the physical body or the abilities of the physical body to look at the spirit. It means you cannot hold it, you cannot touch it, neither can you smell it. But it is that entity that controls the physical body. Therefore, your question is now, when does that life, or when does that spirit, when does it start, or when did it start? So it's not basically that we are talking here about an instance of the spirit making use of the physical body, which together with the mother was able to influence the formation of the physical body, and at birth was able to make use of the physical body for a period of time, grows and matures, and at the end was able to drop the physical body. It is the spirit that you are now referring to, not the physical body, which is of matter, because it is the spirit that was able, through its abilities, to bring these elements together and to form the body. So your question is, how did the spirit, or when did it start? The spirit in itself has always been there in its region. Here in the world of matter, which is not alive until it is activated. However, the spirit comes from within its own region, which one may refer to as this spiritual realm or spiritual sphere. In that particular realm, it is unconscious. And in order to become conscious, it needs to be engaged in activities. It needs to be engaged in activities because it has that in it. that innate ability to become conscious and subsequently self-conscious. In the initial question, there was a differentiation between that which is spirit, which has not got the ability to become conscious, and that which is spirit, which has the ability to become conscious and subsequently self-conscious. It is the latter one is referring to. So in that latter case, the process of becoming conscious and self-conscious mandates it to leave its home as an unconscious entity, or what one may refer to as spirit gem, to come into this world of matter, which has been prepared for it, such that it can incarnate and through its activities gradually to become conscious in the world of matter, and subsequently it becomes self-conscious. When it left its origin as an unconscious gem or particle, it had no sex. It was not a man or a woman. It has not got the form of the man or the woman. However, the potential was always there. And subsequently, in its experiencing, it chooses the form, the type that it wishes to use. So you now find that in some cases they choose the female or the male, depending on the type of activities they wish to get into. And subsequently, in their activities, they become gradually conscious and self-conscious until they get to that particular point where they are now fully self-conscious and may then return back to their origin as self-conscious human personalities, because now they have an identity. And in that case, having fulfilled that, they are able to be of help and support for those who are just commencing their journey to become self-conscious. So the origin of the human personality, or of the spirit which is capable of self-consciousness, is not in the world of matter, is not on earth, but in its region, in the paradise of man, in the spiritual realm. That is where it started from.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this explanation and the picture you're painting for us about the beginning of the, you could say, human being, which is not the earthly beginning. Yes, we have an earth life, but that's not the whole life of a human being. It begins even before this earthly birth. As you pointed out, we are a spiritual being, so which is non-material, non-physical, it exists already before this earthly time, earthly world. So, um, so you'll be wondering, oh, where is that world then? Well, let's say you can call it heaven, paradise, um, spiritual world, but it's not material. So that is a different world where the spirit comes from, and that in fact really, if you want to know properly, that's really the true human being. But we can't go into all the details here in our show, so we always encourage to read the Grail Message. Yes, so I'll give the details later on. So yes, that's it. That's something that we have to discover who we are. It's one of the questions that we, let's say, hopefully we are wondering about in our questions about life. So yes. Now, the topic we are talking about is in the light of truth. And you've established that, yes, the truth is, universal, but the understanding is not universal. That's our difficulty, you can say. Of course, we are individual people, so each person is individual. They will always have a different level of understanding, But then we also have these individuals, let's say they follow sometimes a faith or a teaching or some philosophy, let's say. And if that's the case, then let's have a look at those. So in the world, we have many, in quotes, religions or faiths. Some of them, they can be broken into this monotheistic, like the belief in one God, and the other one, I've forgotten the other word for it, but with many gods. And it's the opposite of monotheistic. And then, Gregory, we wonder, if that's so many people are following this way, another one following that way, which is quite different. Then when you think about universal truth, you're thinking, well, maybe, is that correct? Is there such a thing as universal truth, or is there some different paths that people can they come across, so they follow, and then you wonder which one is the right one. I mean, so many questions suddenly start appearing, and if you're only living in one world, which is that way only, one particular way, then of course these questions won't arise. But in the world of today, with communication, we have internet, we have all the things in our fingertips, on our phone, smartphone, and in this world of today, there's a lot of travel and so on, that people get to meet and get to discover that there's other cultures, other beliefs, and so on. As I said, this just makes one wonder, let's say, for example, there's Hinduism, Buddhism, there's Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and so on and so on. So many out there with their differences. So the question arises, Gregory, how can we, with these different teachings out there, know which one is the right one, or maybe they're not right even. So how do we do that, Gregory? Because of this difference, and there are many, they're quite established, So it's not like, so how can you, Gregory, find which one is the true one, if I can say like that?
Well, thanks for this question again, and it's a very pertinent question. What you yourself mentioned and call religions and these beliefs, these are people's concepts or perception of activities in the universe. So you will find in their beliefs, they say this is what they have observed. Others will come with their beliefs. But the question is, did they examine and weigh these beliefs? Any group you ask, whatever beliefs or whatever religion they are talking about, they will tell you these are their laws and they are referring to the universe. Therein lies the contradiction, because if they are referring to the universe, uni means one. And in that case, the laws of the universe must remain the same. You cannot have all sort of scattered, contradictory laws or beliefs, each opposing the others, and they say these are the universal. They are correct when they refer to the universe, but their understanding of it is totally warped, depend on how they have conditioned themselves to follow that which has been revealed to them, which in many cases they were not matured enough, and therefore they held only one part of it. What is undeniable is that almost all the religions refer to that they themselves, or the laws with their concern, which they are talking about, refer to the laws of the universe. That is undeniable, and that is consistent. That is self-consistent. What is also consistent, which many of these different teachings have never considered, is that all that they are considering, many of them are considering things from an external perspective. And all that they are considering are in the activities which are perceptible to the five senses and to their thoughts. All these are in motion. They may call it movement, they may call it motion. But undeniably, all these activities are activities in motion. That cannot be denied by any of them. And therefore, one may also now consider that since it is understandable that all that is considered in the universe are in motion, then the laws of motion must be taken into account. It is these laws of motion which form the basis for the truth. These laws of motion which form the basis for the truth are basically what an individual may refer to as the laws of creation. The laws of motion in which one may consider the types of motion that are possible. That motion in which the end flows back to the beginning, and that motion in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. with that in which the end flows back to the beginning is what is referred to as reciprocal activity, and also when examined thoroughly, one may refer to it as that of resonance. The case can also be made that in that case where the end flows back to the beginning, in that particular case, that applies where you have similarity or homogeneity. So you have the laws of the attraction of homogeneity, which many call resonance. On the other hand, where the end does not flow back to the beginning, in which one thing is denser and therefore heavier than the other, that particular case one may call gravitation. In this particular instance, whether it is gravitation in the world of matter or outside the world of matter, this also holds. These that are mentioned, none of them is a belief, because it must be examined. It must be examined in deeds, it must be examined in our thoughts, and it must be examined using our intuition. The volition of the human spirit is needed for it in the examination, to be able to look at the external parts and also at the non-external, which is the internal part, which is not perceptible to the five senses. So you will find that that's which the human spirit must know. It needs to exert itself. It is not a belief, it is not a religion, and it is not a philosophy. For you cannot call movement a philosophy. That you have moved from one point to the other, you don't call that a philosophy. It is a fact that there is vibration and there is discussions. These are movements. These are facts. The basis is what is referred to as the laws of motion or the laws of creation. These are facts. These are not philosophies. The same thing happens when one is referring to that which is a particle, or one may call it whatever, a wave. These are concrete points, concrete objects, concrete bodies. These are forms, these are facts, not philosophies, not a religion. So as soon as the individual strives to make it clear to itself that these are realities, then a path will open up that the individual may use for its own self-conviction. That self-conviction which is basically to weigh, in which gravitation comes in, to examine, in which the end flowing back to the beginning, that which is referred to as reciprocal activity, and that which is also referred to as the law of attraction of homogeneity. These have been facts from the earliest beginning. For when it is said that these are the laws of motion. Motion started from somewhere. Motion in creation. Creation started from somewhere. Creation has a boundary. So these things are realities. What one may dismiss as not a reality are the distortions which people or which man has included due to its own personal indolence in not wanting to examine thoroughly. So that which many practice, which they call religion, which they haven't examined thoroughly, that cannot be alive within them in spirit, but only that which is alive within them in spirit, only that will persist, whilst others, which have no real basis, will collapse once they leave the world of matter or they leave the earth.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, in giving us the picture of these laws of motion, which you could say affect whole life. So, as you say, these are universal things. So they are always acting in our world of life. So yes, thank you for that. Now, there's something I was thinking about. You mentioned earlier we have free will, and then this other word comes in your mind, fate, which seems to sound as if something has been predetermined, predestined. When you think of free will, it gives a picture that you are free, to make a decision and, go a particular way. But then there's fate. This word fate give an idea as if something is being fixed or set, predetermined or predestined, like I said. So one would wonder, and there's another law, I know I'm bringing everything together here, this law we hear, the flow motion we've been talking about, let's say law of cause and effect. Everything has a beginning and an ending. So there's a cause, and that makes an effect. So when we think about, Gregory, fate, which sounds like predetermined or predestined, then you have free will to choose whatever decision you wish to choose. And then you're thinking about cause and effect. You're wondering, do we really have free will? Or is the life this is human life, just to be clear, has been predetermined? Even like they say, oh, it's God's will. I'm sorry, I'm going round and round at the moment, but I just want to build a picture. So, oh, this happened, it's God's will. It's like God made that one happen. And then you're thinking that's a conflicting or contradicting, oh, our free will. So we are supposed to decide ourselves what we want to do. And how can it be that, oh, there is a fate that makes it like already predetermined? So, Gregory, sorry to go all over the place, but so my question basically is, do we really have free will, or is there a fate that is predetermining And does there this is there a law of cause and effect involved in this? Is that also part of this um, picture?
Thanks. Although there are many questions bundled into one, but one may take anyone. If one starts with, do we really have free will? And we also talked about cause and
Fate.
effect,
Cause and
fate,
effect and fate. Fate is
and fate.
meaning that it's predetermined. I mean, maybe Greg, you have to
Yes,
clarify this point.
I get that. I want to. Yes, there are things which are predetermined for the human personality. No doubt about that. And one that is predetermined is the intrinsic ability that is granted the human spirit, that intrinsic ability to make free decisions. That is predetermined. It's not taken away. But with that predetermination that made it possible to have a free will, that now brings responsibilities. You wouldn't hold an ant to responsibilities. You wouldn't hold a fly to responsibilities. And you wouldn't set up a court to judge a goat, an animal. Why would you not do that? But you will set up a court to judge a human personality. That is only possible because the human personality has made a decision. When a human personality makes a decision, then it is subject to the consequences of that decision as it moves along. And that consequences is what many refer to as faith. After all, if somebody makes a decision to go along a certain path and will not listen to any advice but wishes to go along a certain path, should that person not experience the consequences of that decision? So, yes, it is predetermined that the human personality has a free will. And from there, whatever decisions it has made, it is accountable. That is where responsibilities come in. So the discussions to say, oh, is there free will? Is there free? These only arise because many have not considered very carefully what the language which they speak is. They try to jump and wish to jettison that which is referred to as responsibility. So the faith is the path which the individual must now traverse after making a decision. That faith which the human personality has made through its volition, that outlines how it needs to proceed here or hereafter. If it changes its paths, along the line, then is then subjected to a different consequence because it has changed. Therefore, it's not going to experience that which it was expecting at the beginning. With every change, now you have a new direction which the individual wishes to follow. So the confusion which have arisen only arose because many did not calm down to examine very carefully. Yes, the human personality has a free will because it is held accountable for what it has done. Or do many wish to aver that the human personality must not be held accountable for what they have done? They possess the free will, which free will is exercised through their speeches, through their activities, and therefore they are responsible for what they have done. Or should we counsel that responsibility in which you have a human personality having made so much effort to be good, to build a good structure, and then we now say the human personality has no free will and we take away that structure from the person? Even in your normal games where you play football, would you say the striker has scored a goal and therefore you don't like it, he has no free will after struggling to score a goal, and you take away the goal from the person? Many must sit down and reflect, not just agree with what people have said there and said, oh, faith. It is the individual through its activities, in deeds, in thoughts, and the human spiritual volition. These are the factors that affect the consequences, which we now call faith, which makes it possible to proceed along the paths they have chosen, to come back to the earth, in the case they call reincarnation, or to proceed higher towards their home in the paradise of man. That free will is intrinsic for the development and the maturity of the human personality. That is why you have that different human personalities are at different stages of maturity.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this explanation. When you put it this way, you now have a logical picture or an understanding of how free will works and operates in conjunction with the law of cause and effect, which so you have an action and that or decision and the consequence of this decision or action, which is the effect, cause and effect. And so the fate is the effect of your cause, meaning the decision or action you took. So that is a logical outcome from the decision or action that you made. And of course, there's nobody can say they only made one decision or action. There have been many decisions and actions. Constantly we do it. So surely, and the consequence doesn't hit us immediately, uh, you know, you don't see it immediately. So it takes time. So you would have put some action out, and then the result comes. Another one, maybe some time ago you made an action or decision, and that one is on its way now, you know. But do you have a clue what is coming to you? Where, you know? No, you don't. So on the surface, it all looks mysterious. But in reality, there's all this logical process going on. So the idea is to know what is this process and get the picture, clear picture about it. Then all of these things make sense, rather than be a mystery or a puzzle that nobody can even have an idea how to solve the puzzle. But actually there's very clear structure in it. So yes, so just we need to understand these things. And in fact, that's what I want to share with you now, to tell you that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this program you're listening to is called the Spiritual Discussion Program, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight, it is called In the Light of Truth. And in the light of truth, if you have any questions or comments on this topic, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which is In the Light of Truth. And that's when the show is live. You can listen on YouTube. That's on Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then after the show finishes, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of the show, also on YouTube. You go to youtube.com and type in the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, In the Light of Truth. That's for the topic for tonight. And of course, you can also listen to the shows of our previous shows, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM /radio/Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1. Now, Gregory, we talk about, you know, truth or facts. And, earlier I mentioned about the different religions or teachings with having some differences. And you talked about there are certain, how can I say, facts, which are the law of motion. Everybody, let's say, even if they don't think about that there's a law of motion, they are familiar with, they see it in their lives, so they can't deny it. However, there's still other things, let's say, which are not so easy to, how can I say, verify. Like I was saying, in some of these teachings, they say there's some monotheistic ones and the other ones, which I can't think of the right word, multi-theistic. So they believe, let's say, in one God, in one of them. I know it's called belief. And the other one, they have many, maybe hundreds or even thousands. So, and there's like, and these teachings are not in like one place, they are in many places. So you can't say, oh, only one group of people have this idea and the other group doesn't, the rest of the world has only this other idea. There's so quite a few places where they have this, you could say, different ideas in about God, let's say, and God and gods, if I can use that word. So, Gregory, that makes a question into a person. Like I say, when in the world of today, all this information is out there, and you might wonder, how can I know which is right here? And I know the law of motion, for sure we can do our own assessment. But these other ones is, let's say, not easy to determine or verify. And so one will wonder, and unless you are, well, even if you are, let's say, within one of those teachings, you will still think, oh, maybe, is this correct? Or the other one, maybe that is correct? Or maybe something is not, both of them might not be correct. It's possible as well. And so how can we determine these things, Gregory? Especially they say there's one God and the others are believing in many.
Basically, you will find that there is non-uniformity when it concerns beliefs, which is understandable because the individuals are different, and in grouping together, many will decide to share a belief, which belief they really never have examined, or neither did they weigh it, but they just took it for granted because it was passed down from their parents or from others, or it was forced down their throats. But one simple question, or one thing which all of them acknowledge and hold on to, is that whatever their belief is, whether it is a belief in one source or in multiple sources, they always say it is universal. Everyone holds on to that, whether it's in Islam or in Christianity, or even with the people who, in their earliest development, whatever they have experienced, they will tell you it's universal. Whether it's Buddhism, everyone will hold is universal. But therein lies the contradiction. It is universal. Universe means one. So While agreeing it is universal, they have forgotten what the universe means. Universal only points to one and not to many. So, how can you now say the laws or your beliefs, they hold on to one universe, and then the beliefs contradict that one universe? It becomes common sense. That which is universal must have the same laws permeating all parts of the universe, all parts of that container, which is referred to as the universe. That means there must be one power which streams through. The effects of this power that streams through all parts of the universe varies. It is the variancy of these effects. Like, you will find that white light, when it passes through a prism, it forms the rainbow, 7 colors. So many who experience one color or the other, they will tell you that it is that color which they themselves have experienced, which is the only one. Others who have experienced 2 or 3 colors will tell you there are this number of colors. Others will now say there are 7 colors. But these colors are only a refraction of the one color, the so-called pure white light. All people have seen the rainbow, and therefore they are convinced of it because they have seen the rainbow. And that rainbow has its origin due to the refraction of one light. So many who have experienced their so-called religions, all right, and have weighed and examined every part of their religion, before long will come to the conclusion rightly that indeed that which they themselves have held onto is universal, if even others say it differently. But it becomes very clear for anyone who is awake, for anyone who strives to be awake and is awake, it won't take time for that individual to understand that the laws of the universe, the power that percolates through the universe, is the same, because there is the universe which they all claim onto, and not that there are other universes in which they are in, and therefore the power that streams through that grants them the possibility of existence are many.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. And what I can see is you could say, the mistake people make in their belief of following some knowledge is that they think that's the universal knowledge. Because you said the whole claim is universal knowledge. But when it looks like it's contradicting with another one, then the question can, well, people wouldn't have thought about it, but what they may not realize is, is it really a complete knowledge, what they have? Maybe it's part knowledge, part of the picture, and other people have been given another part. So let's say it is Buddhism or Hinduism, or even the very ancient ones, the Greek and Romans, or wherever the teachings have come. And then we have, so they are, let's say, multi gods they have belief in. And then we have this monotheistic, which is Judaism, Christianity and Islam. They believe in one God, and they think, oh, that's the all knowledge here. But the reality is, what you've been given is part, and in those part cannot be. Once it's part, it cannot be a complete. So the full story is not there, and then we jump to conclusion on part knowledge as if it's the full knowledge, and sure enough, that is a mistake. So, in fact, Gregory, I want to ask now on that, based on that, why is it that some people are given that part knowledge, and other people are given another part knowledge? As I said, the whole claim is universal, but then they don't know that part, they have been given part, and and there's another part that is, maybe they're not being told that there's another part there. So, yes. So, Gregory, why is that some people have been given part knowledge, not a complete knowledge? Why is that?
Maybe the question needs to be reframed. People grow or people mature gradually. You do not have the same maturity amongst the peoples of this earth. People mature at different rates depending on how they use their free will. So there are some who, at the beginning, if you take the example of that of a child, as a child, you use very simple pictures. As the child grows and matures in its recognition, as the child grows and matures in its cognition of the activities around it, it comes to the realization of how things stand, their interconnectedness, their interdependence. It keeps growing. And it goes initially to a kindergarten to learn some basic things and to eat a lot of food and play. Subsequently, it leaves the kindergarten and goes to the primary school. Again, it is still maturing. There are some who have matured above that which one may refer to as the primary school and have now entered into higher areas of learning. One may call it secondary. So you find that in a similar way here on earth, people are at different stages of maturity. And being at different stages of maturity, their power of cognition, their power of recognition varies. But as they mature in accordance with the laws of creation, then their capacity to understand increases. And therefore, it's as if they are opening up. When you have that state where the human personality is open, then it is prepared to receive more than it had been receiving. And that is what the challenge is. The possibility of receiving more depending on the inner preparedness of the individual. And each individual is at a different stage of maturity. In any country, no two human personality are at the same stage, because they are individuals having their free will to make decisions which will either open the way to them or not. Why? Because the concepts which they now have built around themselves, the concepts which they now hold, these are what opens the path for the receptivity. The concept which they now hold is the soil upon which better, more inclusive knowledge will be permitted. The concept which they now hold is the language which they themselves speak. It's the language which resonates on
one may wonder, oh, the Grail Message brings knowledge, spiritual knowledge, that's what we say. But why has it come, Gregory? We have these other teachings out there as well, giving knowledge too. And so what is the purpose of the Grail Message?
the teachings you yourself referred to out there. These are preparatory for the different peoples to have a basic understanding, all acting as steps of maturity, such that from that framework of maturity, they point. These teachings are just pointers to the truth. In all simplicity, one can already say, well, with what has been given initially in this preparation, it has always been that these laws of creation, these laws of nature, First, in considering the laws of nature, the individuals in whatever country, in whatever culture, interacts with nature. That is undeniable. The individual is born, it grows, it gets to a stage, it matures, it gets to old age, and may pass on. Or it could pass on at any time. It happens in all cultures. That is undeniable. However, what has not happened in the past is using these experiences which they have had and using it as a basis, as a start, now to understand the laws of nature, the laws of creation, the operations in creation, all the things that are referred to in creation, even after creation, what came before, what already existed before creation. It is this basis that forms the work in the light of truth, the Grail Message. In the light, because light itself illuminates. Externally, it illuminates. Internally, you find that energy or power streams into the light. However, this power, this illumination is not done in an arbitrary way. This power and this illumination, in which there are forms. These forms may be called substances, and the basis substantiality, because these are not in an arbitrary way. They are in accordance with the laws of motion through which all came into existence. Therefore, you have the work in the light of truth, presenting a complete picture of creation and how it works. It is now for the individual human personality who is discerning to weigh it, himself or herself, and to examine it. Not just read it, but to weigh and examine in deeds, in thoughts, and within the human spiritual volition. That is the task of the human personality, and that is what the human personality must engage in, such that here or hereafter it will be in the position to be able to assist many who then come subsequently, such that they are able to mature in good time, because they themselves have received.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this explanation about the purpose of the Grail Message. Now, dear listeners, we come to the end of the show tonight on the topic of In the Light of Truth. In fact, that is the title of the Grail Message, In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And if you wish to find out more about the Grail Message or get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. And I'll spell that. It's www.grail, Grail Message, MESSAGE.com. I'm not going to read the for your guidance tonight because we don't have too much time for that, but I will read just the words which Aprushin has given us right at the just before that. And he says, free yourselves from all darkness. He who makes no effort to grasp the word of the Lord aright burdens himself with guilt. So, dear listeners, I hope you have enjoyed our discussion tonight. It was very varied. I'm just going to ask Gregory if there's anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye.
Wishing all listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me. Have a beautiful week ahead, listeners. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic.